order the regular meeting for the Leominster Conservation Commission. January 23rd, 2018. We have some continued hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There'll be a public meeting to consider of RDA by Highland Manor Realty Trust regarding the determination of a potential wetland address 826 West Street, map 514, lot 8.
This hearing has been continued as of the last meeting to March 13th, 2018, here in Leominster City Hall, room 10.
Okay. If you don't mind, can I just read through the continued? Okay. Another continued hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There'll be a public hearing. Considers notice of intent by James Barassi regarding the construction of a stone paver patio within buffer zone of a perennial stream, address 258 Exchange Street, map 395, lot 58, DEP 199-1063.
This hearing has been continued to the February 13th meeting here in Leominster City Hall, room 10.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Traditional Concepts regarding the construction of a single-family home and associated driveway utilities and site grading with a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland resource area, address 4 Somerset Drive, map 398, lot 1-43, DP 199-1064.
This hearing also has been continued to the February 13th meeting here in Leominster City Hall, room 10.
Okay. And our last continued hearing, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by CRX Realty Trust regarding the construction of a condominium and associated parking and stormwater management within a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland, address 96 Exchange Street, map 111, lot 6, DEP 199-1061. Is there someone representing the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Board, Pat Scorzelli for CRX. Hoping for the last time. My understanding, Ken obviously is out of town. The design which should be in front of you, the stamped drawings, called for a change from a 2-to-1 to a 3-to-1 slope. I believe you'll find that's been accomplished in the plans before you, and I would hope that you would have a final resolution to this evening, and that we could move forward. That was the last issue, as I believe that we had after many meetings.
I just want to look at the shape of it, because I know that was a... It was much more square last time, right? What was the elevation concerns? It's 428.
It was the
429.
it was the grades in the middle. They didn't have.
Oh, okay.
They were going up.
Oh, that's right.
For 2 feet. So they widened the top area.
It's kind of looking hard. These trees now look like they're right in the square.
This is the
This was the current one at the last meeting.
Commission members, questions, comments?
Yes, I have a few.
Yes.
At the last meeting, I had asked about the detention basin being filled, and unless I heard it wrong, but I don't think I did, between the 2 and the 10-year storm frequency, 3.0 inches of rainfall and 4.5 inches of rainfall, the emergency spillway would become operative.
Kent, you didn't ask that of me. I mean, Kent would have answered that question.
Right.
So, your recollection, I'll defer to your recollection.
Well, I'm looking at my notes. So.
Okay. No, listen. Like I said, he wasn't. He's out of town, so I'm here at your mercy.
So,
But
I've been looking at this over the last 2 weeks, and it just becomes apparent to me that when you need the detention basin the most, it's not available.
Okay.
I mean, the water's going in as quick as it goes in, is coming out. And I don't know what, and you wouldn't be able to answer this, but what would be the
No,
flow?
I mean, unless the outfall, I mean, I could answer it if, well, I'm not gonna answer it from this plan certainly, but.
Well, if you went up to the 100-year storm frequency, which is 6.6 inches,
Yep.
that water would really be coming out of that spillway. And that spillway appears to be less than 15 feet from an existing unit at an elevation of 428.
So the outlet, I guess, the plans are there.
It looks like the base of the
Yellows.
spillway is at 428.
Okay.
So I'm wondering what's going to keep the water from going into the existing unit. Because there's an arc of trees, there's 6 different trees on the plan, and they call for a 4-inch earth saucer dam above present grade level.
Okay.
So in essence, those 6 trees would create a dam
Correct.
which would force the water from that spillway into the existing unit. How does it get out, how does it get around that existing unit and into the wetlands?
Let me think of that for once.
When you say unit,
I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks.
No,
The
I'm
actual
trying to think about it
building
now, I'm
units.
just trying to get a visual, what, is there an outlet elevation?
It
Is
just
there an
shows,
inlet and outlet?
it
It's
shows
not
the
here.
base of the spillway at 428. And that's the same elevation, or excuse me, 424.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because 428 is the
Yeah,
top of the elevation.
424, and 424 is the same elevation of the corner.
Well, actually, it's showing it at 423. Here, this plan's showing 423 to the bottom.
Well, even at 423,
Right.
I mean, if you
No, no,
had
I agree.
6.6 inches of water coming out of that spillway, that's a lot of water.
That's a substantial amount.
I mean,
Does it show an inlet?
I just don't see how it's gonna work without causing a major issue for the existing unit. The one that would be on the far, as you're looking at that plan.
Talking about this unit here, 17 and 18?
Not the new ones that are being proposed.
Oh, the existing
The
units?
ones that are there right now. If you look at, it says existing units, and then in parentheses,
Right.
3,
Right.
which would be right on, I guess, the existing
Which is at
Heron Way.
432, it looks like.
I don't know, it was in yellow on my plan, and I can't pick up on it against the white
Sorry.
paper. It looked to be 424, that kind of
Well, here
catches
they've
the
got,
corner of the
424
building.
is here under the new basin design, 423 is the bottom. This
see the
existing
spill,
unit
see
has,
see the spillway where your thumb is?
yep,
Go down, the spillway.
well, that's what I'm saying, so I don't know what he's got for, well, this looks like the elevations between 423 and,
This concerns right there,
yeah, I'm trying.
right where your finger is
No, I know,
I'm afraid it's
I'm
gonna
looking,
flood.
here's the existing, I'm like looking going, because there is, in fact, a spillway, so I just don't know what his inlet.
Let's see how it doesn't flood that unit. Did you change the plantings?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it worse. If you move those trees over,
Yeah,
it's gonna funnel it closer to the
So-
corner of that
yep,
existing
this
unit.
one.
What prevents that water from going in that unit?
Good waterproofing. That's
Notice
it.
these.
Yeah, I think, because this basin was able to handle.
I drew a
What'd you say it
line.
was?
When he read those
A
figures
1 year,
off,
a 1 year,
it was
no,
between the 2 and 10-year frequency,
2
somewhere
and
between
10-year.
3.0 and 4.5.
is what it could hold.
That spillway is continually flowing. And I had mentioned a 3.5-inch event that we just had in that area
Right.
last year, last November, less than a few months back.
Well, I
So if
would,
you had that, I don't see how that unit isn't gonna go under.
I would tell you that if you're looking here, I've actually got a if you look carefully if I'm reading this right, you've got a 428, 429, 430, 420, 434. Everything is pitching down. So
Right.
water doesn't run uphill, so I would tell you the first thing would be gravity, depending on what the inlet elevation is going to keep it from coming back here, because this 434, 432, 430. So I've got a 430 elevation here and a 423 bottom. So what should happen is hydraulics should bring it that way, but when you get out to here,
It's not that corner, Pat, it's the other corner.
this corner?
Yeah, that corner of that existing unit, if you had a 6.6-inch event,
Oh,
and
okay.
that spillway's running at full capacity.
Because I was gonna say from here, I don't think there's gonna be a problem. You're basically saying when we
You
get,
don't have the plantings on that, and if you put the
Right.
plantings on that as well, in essence, you've created a dam.
if you put it between the unit and the outlet.
No, just the arc of the plantings alone, there's 6 different proposed trees, both dogwoods and white pines, with a 4-inch earth dam saucer around them. So not a lot of water is going to get past them to go down into the existing wetlands. It's all going to be shot over towards the corner
Yep.
of that existing unit, and at 6.6 inches, that unit's going to go underwater. Unless I'm looking at it wrong, but I don't think so.
Like I said, the natural elevations here are going to basically send everything that way. The question would be is whether an earthen dam is being created, so.
By those plantings. Is that what they call for a 4-inch? This set of
6.
plants should have, the bushes are 6, but I
Yeah,
believe the trees
one of the
were
resolutions
4.
might be is to actually relocate
That's a
those
6,
plants.
but these trees are 4.
Oh,
right there.
Yes. I apologize, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but this is one of the first times I've ever seen a detention basin that doesn't actually pitch the water to the wetland directly. Usually the design is to feed the wetland system, because it's capturing water, diverting it away from the wetland, but it's then got to put it back to the wetland. Or in this case, it's still diverting it away from, so I don't know if that was something that was brought up last week, but
Well, we were asked to change basically the pitch and the slope of the basin. To do that, you effectively would either had to build it out into the wetland or basically divert it to where it will feed. If you look at the elevations here, this will all absolutely, it's not a point source obviously, but it will certainly feed that basin from this looks like riprap here to the wetland.
But even if it was like on the other side, it would have been feeding a wetland system where it's sort of pitching
Well,
it
if you
away
look at these
from.
elevations, everything's going that way.
Right, eventually, right.
Well, it's pretty much, that's flat to the wetland. If you look at the wetland elevation, that elevation, they're almost the same. But your point's
Because-
certainly well
yeah,
taken, I'm not,
Because normally you'd have some sort of
Right,
sheet flow
right,
down,
right.
and so you're kind of depriving this area up in here of.
yeah, but if you look here at this elevation, and look at this elevation, it's pretty much the same elevation. That's just because the erosion control that it doesn't look like it's in a true feeder system, because it's just outside of the edge of wetland. But I'm back, we'll juggle a little bit.
Yeah, no,
Again,
no.
I don't want to get, I'm not trying to divert from
Right, if you
that
factor
issue.
in the proposed plantings, then there's not going to be a sheet flow into that wetlands, because it
And-
can't get past the
I
earthen
guess-
dams you create around the plantings.
Well, I guess what I would recommend, based on what you're saying to me and your observations have always been pretty clear, so I'll take that as that the simple solution I would think is be to move those plantings elsewhere, because the only thing that would create the dam would be those plantings. Because the elevations certainly aren't going to deprive, the elevations will still move this to a down gradient. The only thing that would stop it, and I'm not disagreeing with your observation, would be those plantings would then have a tendency to want to create absorption, especially if they're going to be saucers around each basin. So it might be that those plantings need to be relocated, which I would certainly not be opposed to, but the elevation should still send everything. I don't know what, I don't have a finished floor elevation here, but if this happens the way this is basically designed, the only thing that would stop it, in your observations, would be the plantings. It wouldn't be the natural gradient, because the natural gradient is going to basically pitch, especially now that we've opened this up to a 3-to-1 slope from a 2-to-1 slope. it won't be like an erosion, like you're gonna have a much gentler meander down into this, so I would tell you that if you had plantings creating a dam, I agree, the water's gonna be slowed significantly enough to possibly not continue to hydraulically flow into this basin. But, because, again, without, I mean, the bottom of this basin's 423, and we've got a 432, 434 coming through here. So, this corner, which is the corner of concern, if there's nothing to stop the flow, it should clearly head towards the wetland, not back up gradient towards that existing unit 3, or 3 existing units, I think that's what it means. Oh yeah, there's no 1, 2, 3, so.
Can we determine how much water is coming over that spillway after 4.5 inches? Because I don't think we're talking about a gentle flow coming down that spillway once the detention basin's at 100% capacity if you were to get a 6.6 inch storm. Or worse yet, 2 storms back to back at 3.5 like we just had.
I think that was your point the last meeting.
It was,
The
yeah.
back-to-back
And I went
storm.
back and looked at it even closer, and I thought, I don't see how this is working. But the worst case scenario is when you need it the most, it's not available. I don't know. I have one other question. Maybe if Brad looks at some of those things. There's a snow storage area that's proposed, and I know it was mentioned that any snowstorm in excess of 4 inches would be trucked out of the site.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming from 4 on down, you would use that snow storage area?
Yes,
Okay.
and that's why we talked about creating the barriers and everything we talked about.
Okay, so if you were to use it, how do you access it? Once everything, let's say that everything's done, the existing units are there, the 18 proposed units are in, all the infrastructure is done,
Well, you would get it to the end.
how do you plow into there?
Well, no, what you would do is effectively you would bring it to the end of the parking lot and then just come in with a machine and take it out. You wouldn't push it someplace inaccessible. Typically, if you know if for example there's a prediction of a 5 to 6 inch storm,
Right,
you would move it to an area and you don't wait till there's 6 inches. You basically bring a front end loader, you start removing it. Otherwise, all you do is create a mountain that becomes more of a nuisance trying to get rid of than not.
so this isn't gonna be used at all, the snow storage area?
Oh, no, it would, but it'd be, think of it more like a holding area till you could bring a front end loader
Okay,
to
so
start
that-
taking it out.
That's my question. If you're not dealing with a big storm, just a small, like we just had,
Yeah.
how do you access that? How do you get the snow in there?
Well, you'd end up just pushing it to the end of the parking lot.
Where's the snow storage listed again?
Well, we had it before, I don't know why it's not on this plan, but we had it at the end of the parking lot.
It's right behind unit 15 and 16, the new proposed ones. And there's plantings all around it, there's trees that are proposed around it.
Oh, it was in here?
Right,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, effectively, you've got a grade here, and you would basically use this area here. As pretty much, you'd probably push it to the edge, as typically is done, and it would just pile here and then ultimately melt. Especially since it's, because you're gonna wanna pick up basically from here to here, it would be a snow storage hold. And then here we made sure it didn't get pushed into the wetlands, so I would tell you that it'd be more like a staging area. If it was minor, it would just be pushed there to the edge. If not, it would be pushed there like a holding area so you could get at it with a front end loader.
and unit 15 and 16, those units along there have no garages, correct?
Correct.
So these people are all parking around them?
I know the parking plan that was approved by the planning board is not on here, but I think all the parking's accounted for in these units. Yeah, this doesn't show me this garage is under, I don't think this garage is on that side.
Well, the original plan I have, if you look at sheet 4 of 8, it shows parking spaces around units 15 and 16. It
Does it
talks
show-
about 3 spaces.
Does it
And
show
then there's
garage?
6 other spaces. There's no garage.
Okay.
So my thought was, between the plantings that you're proposing and those 9 available parking spaces, I don't see how you get the snow in there if everybody's car is parked there.
Typically, I would tell you that you do a couple things. Either you don't push it in there. If it's insignificant enough, there's a few different places where you would push snow either possibly to the end, towards the edge, not into the wetland. There's certainly a ton of room elsewhere, but I know I wasn't here for the planning board approval of parking spaces, et cetera, but I know that we've always intended the snow storage to be in those areas.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any more questions.
Just from my experience, Paul,
Yeah.
I was a former townhouse owner. They normally, not at this site, but normally, because of the small area, they usually use bobcats to plow. They don't actually come in with trucks, they actually use
Yeah, just
bobcats.
we typically don't use, even now, we don't use plows. Everybody uses a Geel or a Bobcat or small cat. It's just so much easier, especially when you're turning in very tight spaces with a lot of cars around.
That would make sense.
Nobody's using plows.
Yeah, especially in places like that. I mean, if that helps answer
Yeah.
any questions. Most townhouse and condominium units, that's usually how they plow, because it's easier, so. And that's usually, again, this is just my experience, but they usually plow your driveway, pick it up and just find a home for it and dump it until they can
Has,
move it.
just as a follow-up to snow, has there been any negotiations with somebody, like once you're over 4 inches, where does it go?
Oh, they have their own, oh, no, they have their own equipment and a place to put it. It'll probably go down to the length of Cass Street, probably in the back, or they've got certainly enough places to bring snow. Yeah.
So it'd be completely removed from the site?
Oh, yeah, well, it wouldn't make sense to pick it up, and plus they get access to 10-wheelers. It would go in the back of a, 10-yard dump and taken off the site. And while we have a little lull, since Mr. Marco was leaving us, I want to thank him for his hard work and dedication and wish him good luck.
I appreciate that.
And, he's going to be missed.
Thank you, Pat.
You all set, Paul?
I'm set.
Any questions, Brad?
Yeah.
Still- Okay.
There's only a couple of things, I think, outstanding on my end, at least the last meeting we had. And what I really wanted to see was that we got a better detail for the infiltration basin, particularly with respect to the weir that was being proposed. It's listed as emergency spillway, but it's really going to be its primary source there. So I guess the first thing, what's in the calcs doesn't match what's on the plan in terms of dimensions. And I just want to be clear what the nature of the material of the spillway is going to be. Can you answer that?
No,
Okay.
unfortunately. But you certainly can set it out in whatever decision you would hopefully issue to.
Do we have a stamped set of calcs?
Let me, that might not be the most updated one. The most updated one I sent 2 weeks ago, I believe,
This is dated January 10th.
January 10th. Let me see what I got for it.
today was ice skates.
Yeah, it's pretty slippery.
It was crazy today.
Yeah.
What is it proposed now, the spillway? Does it have a detail for that?
These two right here.
That one right there?
So, the concern that I have is it's primary outflow.
Right.
Typically you have like a riprap earth and berm type design for
Right.
an emergency spillway, something that's theoretically not even gonna get the flow. So it looks like this part of its design is quote emergency type situation,
Not
but in reality,
constant flow.
when you look at the H&H calcs, it's gonna get it at much smaller events. So normally for something like this, you pour concrete or have a geotextile type
So
material
very
or something.
sturdy, yeah. 'Cause this is just,
Because eventually, if you've got water coming through here on a regular basis, you can lose.
Right.
some of that.
because this is just all earth and,
Yep.
right there.
And then I think this should be pointed that way. Not because I have the same concerns that Larry had with the water getting to the well, and it's gonna get there anyway. I just wanna minimize the path so that you don't get erosion mills from this
Right.
point on. So I think
So
that's
it'll be a
gonna happen.
point, it'll be a
Yeah.
point flow.
That's the latest.
Yeah, this is the latest.
Okay. No stamp on it.
New stamp.
Maybe these can easily be moved.
Right.
I think I missed part of the tree conversation. Was that a condition of the planning board, or was that just something the landscape architect came up with?
Yeah, it wasn't conditioned,
Okay.
just that we are planting. That's why I'm saying if you want to adjust, if you think the stamp works for you guys the same way it works for us, as, you know, an engineer, this better all work. I've got a stamp that's telling me it will. So they've got to make sure it performs. But if we need to move some trees, all they ask for is a landscape plan with numbers of trees. I don't think they had any direct intent where or how, or just that they're there, or somewhere there for too many projects get done, as you guys know, with no landscaping, all blacked up. And if we need to change the direction of that outflow, I don't, like I said, that certainly can be part of the condition that we have more of a point source towards, even if we came as, actually, Peter just pointed out, we just actually could turn this corner. Certainly, the outfall is the same elevation, so the outfall could be to the wetland, more directly to the wetland.
What's that elevation? What's that elevation? I can't read it.
This here,
Does it say 424?
that's 424. So the 424 connects to their proposed here,
Okay.
does that.
What's
This in
this?
here is, I think that's the 422.
All right. So you got a 2-foot drop over. Whatever.
But yeah, no, I also see Paul's concern there. We want to get that moving in that direction.
Right. If we could turn it more that direction, move the plantings more in this
It's
Actually,
direction.
we
You
can
could
give
go
that
up
outfall,
there,
it's
you
actually
go
below
here,
the bottom of the
there,
wetland,
yeah.
so it will actually feed the wetland from natural hydrology as opposed to,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
changing that outfall is not a problem.
So Brad, what was your concerns? The calculations didn't meet the plan that what you were saying?
Yeah, the outlet control structure still doesn't match exactly what's in here.
Okay.
And then I'd just like to see a better detail how that rear is gonna be constructed.
Okay.
And then same concerns everyone else has with respect to the landscape and the direction.
Okay.
But I mean, those aren't insurmountable hurdles at this point. You're pretty much there.
Alright. Is that something you'd want redrawn in a condition? I know how you normally feel.
But, I mean, I'll leave it up to the board.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns, comments? All right, I'll open it up to the audience. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and third time. Mr. Bengarazzi, do you have, I'm going to keep the public hearing open for the moment. Do you have any recommendations?
Well, I think the board should discuss whether or not they would like to see these concerns addressed and revised on an updated plan, or whether that can be conditioned.
All right. What would the board like to see at this point, before we vote and before I close any public hearings?
Well, I'll just express my one concern.
Yes.
If we're going to be getting information after the fact, and in the interim, if we don't have an agent available to review it for us, that
Yes.
could be a problem.
That could be a problem. I forgot about that little tidbit.
It's a tidbit.
He's only gonna be 2 floors down, it's not even as tall.
That's correct.
Shouldn't have left town, I didn't know anything.
It's further down the agenda.
What's your thoughts, Mr. Giannakis? I know you're going to abstain if we decide to have a vote tonight.
Yeah, I would have to abstain, but I never feel comfortable voting when we don't have a final stamped plan. If it was a matter of just putting a stamp on a plan that's already been accepted, that's one thing, but when this thing's outstanding, I've just never been comfortable with voting on something that I haven't seen yet, you know? I don't think that's, personally, that would be mine.
Well, I would offer this, the plans are stamped, the engineer, this has to, well, if it doesn't work, it's on his stamp. Not all of our opinions, and they're engineers, their stamp is how they make their living. This certainly should work. I would say the fact that Marco's leaving, I would hope that we could possibly condition this, and if you get information that is, you have the power as a board to rescind that decision, and there's a lot of things, I've been doing this a long time now, so I would hope that we could move forward tonight. This isn't getting built tomorrow. It certainly gives you enough time to, you would have other options, I think Marco can respond to it as a board. If you wanted to accept this with conditions, and the conditions aren't met, that's why they're called conditions. So we've been at this a long time, and we're all a little tedious, and I'm respectfully hoping that we can certainly move forward tonight with anything that you would want, Marco can reduce to writing as a condition. If the condition's not met, then it's effectively not an approval. If the condition is met, then it's certainly an approval, but we have stamped plans here that, as I said, that engineer is saying will work, and I'm not an engineer, so I'm going to rely on that stamp since it costs a lot of money to get it.
I'll just throw this out here. I mean, I wasn't here last meeting, I apologize for that, but I know there's a lot of things that Mr. Stone has been asking for, but, detailed plans and drainage calcs, revised, and it's still not done. So
Well, I don't know that.
it's not on this board, if this was to be held over because the drainage calcs aren't stamped and they're not updated.
Well, they are. So let's be clear. Everything here is stamped.
Well, the
So
drainage
if-
calcs?
If there's been changes, okay, then I can't tell you they haven't been responded to. I'm not the engineer, but I know what's been relayed. You know, this isn't for practice. So I would tell you my understanding is everything's been stamped, everything's been designed and approved by an engineer who that's their job. If anyone on this board's an engineer or has that similar stamp, then I understand. But what I'm saying is I'm relying on that just like I'm hoping you guys will rely on that. So as far as I know, everything that Kent's been asked to do, he's done. If it's not been done to Ms. Stone's liking, I'll apologize for that. But as I'm to understand it, we're also paying him, and every meeting we come, I believe we're getting what's been asked for. If it's been deficient, which is a little disappointing to me also, by the way, and I'll apologize for that, that it seems like they're just not kind of clicking that's been 100% right, but these plans aren't coming back the same week after week. They're coming back with changes, as is understood, and I'm hoping that, honestly, at this point, I'd rather have you condition it and know that I can say to whoever, we're not getting final approvals, because again, this is the beginning. I don't know what's going to happen if you don't have an agent. I don't know who's going to go out there once this is built to make sure it's built the right way. But it's got to start and stop somewhere. So I'm hoping we can get on with it. And if Mr. Stone wants other things that become quote a condition, then they're a condition. That means effectively I've got nothing until he's happy. But coming back here every 2 weeks, I think the board has other things. We've looked at this thing ad nauseum. And I'm just hoping we can move forward tonight, that's all.
Do you have a comment?
Personally, I agree a lot with what Larry said.
Okay.
And if I might make a suggestion too, because a lot of these things, as you're making changes, you're sometimes creating additional concerns. And it seems like we're getting different parties here at each meeting as well. Sometimes.
Well, I'm always here, just sometimes Kent's available.
Right, sometimes he's not available. And we've got questions about the actual plans, meeting, what's in the H&H. You may want to have the actual engineer here to discuss this, because he may be able to help answer and clarify things for us.
I was hoping that was going to happen tonight.
I don't
trust
believe
me.
he's been here once, so that might be part of the solution as well.
Okay.
Okay?
But as I said, not to be disrespectful in any way, you know, if anybody here is going to stamp, then I think that's great. Someone's getting paid a lot of money with a stamp to assure this board in this city that this is going to work. So that's, I guess, my only point. But anyway, as the board wishes is how the sword falls, so.
Well, from what I'm hearing, and I can see both sides of this, but as two of my colleagues on the board seem to be brought up some valid points, I think in the best interest of moving this project forward, because I have a feeling of what the vote would be if I brought it to a vote, I think it's better off we get our final plans. I think what's listed, or what we talked about tonight, is pretty minor.
What I would ask respectfully is a letter from this board, exactly what they would like to see
Okay.
at the next meeting, and that we really kind of put this thing to bed. That's
Yep.
all I'm asking.
I think we can do that.
Okay.
I just,
No, Mr. Chairman, I defer, and I respectfully take it off your shoulders and ask for a continuance.
so, I just think that would be better, because I think there's some concerns that you might not get your NOI if I open this to a
No,
vote, so.
I understand.
So, we can definitely continue it. Brad, you kind of jotted some stuff down, I'm assuming you're kind of making a very quick list of items, so we will
Yeah,
we
if
will
we could have a
definitely
very
get you.
concise list, it'll make it
I
easier
mean,
on all
I think
of
it's
us.
minor, but if we
It'd
can
be a
definitely
checklist, and
get
that'll be it.
stamped drawings, which we have, but changes, and have the hydrology report match the,
Mhm.
match the plans. And if you could actually have the engineer here, that might solve it all.
That will certainly be a request.
You know what I mean, so, okay. And our next meeting is February 13th, okay.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You have a good night, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Pat.
This is ain't stamped, is it? Okay.
Is it the same engineer that, I didn't notice, I'm assuming it's all the same,
Two.
two different, okay.
Who's doing the engineering?
Well, it's Ken Oldfield with New England Engineering, and you have J.M. Grenier Associates. So they're both tied into.
Both pieces, okay. All right, moving on to our first hearing of the evening. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There will be a public meeting to consider a RDA by the Mass DOT Highway Division regarding proposed roadway and drainage improvements at the intersection of the Leominster Connector and Nashua Street. Is there someone here representing the applicant?
My name is Ed Hutchinson with Tetra Tech, and this is Beth Parent, also with Tetra Tech, representing Mass DOT Highway Division. Use your easel, that's okay?
Yep.
Let's see. Here we go. Basically, Beth's gonna just talk about the general project for a little bit, and then I'm gonna go over the resource areas and impacts after that, so I'm gonna pass it on to Beth.
Hello. So this is a safety improvement project at 3 locations actually, in Gardner, Leominster, and Sterling. The Leominster location is the Nashua Street Leominster Connector intersection. It was identified by MassDOT as a high crash location. So the purpose of the project is to enhance safety and mitigate some of the safety issues that were found during a road safety audit that was performed in 2016. So the project includes realigning Nashua Street southbound right turn lane, bringing it closer to the intersection. We're going to be increasing signal clearance times, replacing or adding a supplemental signal head, adding retroreflective backplates to improve visibility of the signal heads, and replacing some of the signs and pavement markings with retroreflective signs and pavement markings to increase visibility. The North Nashua River runs through the project area, and because this is an impaired water body, MassDOT's going to add a stormwater treatment. It's a subsurface recharge unit. We'll be treating the stormwater to the maximum extent practical. The project isn't creating impacts that would require the stormwater treatment, but since it's an impaired water and because MassDOT's doing work in the area, that's the reason that we're adding it in.
So basically, we have 5 resource areas all associated with the Nashua River. We have land underwater, which is basically the land in the middle, underneath the river itself. We have bank on the edges of the river. We have 100-year floodplain, or BLSF, which is roughly elevation 297, kind of like at the bottom of the slope, adjacent to the river. And we have riverfront area, which is 200 feet from the bank of the river. Basically, what really not impacting riverfront area per se, because we're actually increasing vegetated area in the riverfront by about 2,350 square feet. So basically, this area is the existing lane right now. This area will be, the pavement will be removed from this checked area here, and it'll be loamed and seeded, and stormwater features will also be in that area, but they'll be underground. So the new lane will come in this little dotted area this way. So basically, we're moving the impervious area further away from the river and increasing impervious area within the riverfront area. The project is a redevelopment project, complies with the redevelopment provisions of the riverfront area. The work is not closer to the river than existing conditions. There's improvement in stormwater management, so that's improvement in the condition. Let's see what that is. But yes, it's not closer to the river than existing conditions. One of the exemptions, I guess, in the Wetlands Protection Act is that the project is converting pervious area into vegetated area. So that is pretty much, it's considered a minor activity in the buffer zone of the riverfront area. And that activity is exempt actually from the Wetlands Protection Act, so. But basically, it's a improvement in safety and improvement in the riverfront area. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer.
7-1, it's kind of a minor thing, but where were the trees that had to be removed?
They're right here on this outside of the riverfront area. This is the tree clearing line.
Okay,
So it's gonna be this area right here with this dark line.
Oh, okay.
So about 175 square feet to increase, for people coming on this way, it's a big site distance.
okay.
Where's the existing lane? I mean, I travel all
Oh,
the time.
yeah, sorry. Actually, probably the aerial photograph, you can see it a little bit better in the, after the figure, yeah, right there, yeah. So basically,
Right.
yeah, it's probably underneath that, little red, you can see it, yeah. It's really hard to see in the, but it does flow, you know, right around that curve.
Right,
of the
right,
stream,
right.
yeah.
On this graphic, this is the curb line actually, right where the compost filter tube is, that's right behind the existing curb line. So the existing lane is here,
Right there. okay.
yeah, and the proposed lane will come in at a more direct angle to the intersection, making it easier to look left.
So
And-
basically,
and you-
yeah, so basically, you're gonna take out what's hashed basically as pavement,
Mhm.
put in impervious,
It'll be grass, yeah.
and then you're gonna
And the lane will be here.
take out that
And this will be
little
a small
island
line.
area.
Yeah, this will be a small,
Yeah,
small
okay.
line.
Right.
there.
Okay. So really, you're just moving basically the,
Kind of straighten this
yeah,
lane
you're
a
just
little.
gonna
yeah,
straighten it out
right.
so
So people don't fly around the corner, you know.
more impervious will be, more pervious will be
Right.
towards the riverfront.
Yep.
Okay. I've been on that road more than once, I can tell you that. That's why I was
Yeah.
been a little concerned when you were like. Okay.
How will the work be done?
How?
Yeah. Because I know it's kind of steep in that area, if I remember.
Right, it's steep behind, so the steep is behind the guardrail down here, so we're really not gonna be doing any work on that slope.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure how far you were
yeah.
going in there.
We're actually
It is
gonna
very steep.
just retain the
Okay.
existing guardrail.
Oh, you are, okay, all right.
Yeah.
What, can you just describe your stormwater treatment that you talked about?
Sure, it's a subsurface infiltration chamber, like an arch system, like a storm tech chamber type. The reason it's subsurface is because we needed the setback from the steep slope. I think it's, I can't remember off the top of my head, 15 feet maybe. So, and the inverts are low, so in order to build an open basin at this point, there just wasn't enough room before you got to the steep slope, so that's why it's underground. It's a pretty small drainage area coming in there, only about a half an acre, so it's a really small recharge unit.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there an overflow for the recharge units?
It's offline and, yeah. So the inverts are set up, so the existing trunk line goes out this way. The inverts are set up at these manholes so that at lower storms, the water goes into the recharge unit, and at higher storms, it will bypass.
And what if any pre-treatment is taking place prior to getting those units?
It's deep sump catch basins, and the first row will be like an isolator row
Okay.
line to catch the sediment.
Any other questions?
What would be the anticipated timeline for start to finish?
It's probably only about a month of construction at this location. And the project is supposed to be advertised in April of this year. So I would think construction would be either next fall or possibly after the winter. I'm not really sure, because there are 3 locations in the project, so it depends on sequencing.
Mhm. So you're thinking, once the project started, it would be approximately a month
I
to...
think so. That's my best guess.
I was just trying to get a handle on how long that area would be open before it's stabilized.
Which way is that new island, if you want to call it, or grassed area? Which direction is that flowing?
It's
going
very
towards the
flat.
It is. It's gonna remain flat.
Yeah, actually, I'm not even sure which way it slopes,
Okay.
but it's very flat, whatever it is.
So with that pre-treatment area, that's all flat?
Pretreatment area.
Where that pre-treatment unit
I think
is
it's just
going,
that
that whole area that's shaded is flat, or relatively flat?
Oh, the grassed area is relatively flat, yeah.
Because that's currently the lane. You gotta keep that contour, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Just
Except
take out the
it'll be raised
pavement.
6 inches
Right,
because of
for
the
berm,
curve.
for
Yep.
curbing and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
so the slopes on
And what were you talking about on the other side with the trees?
So we're, as part of the safety improvement, we'll be clearing trees up to this black line. It's just a sliver of trees to increase the intersection sight distance
Okay.
for people coming down this
Okay.
way.
So it's just kind of a cleanup, scrub out of that
Yeah.
vegetation?
Just push the tree line back a little bit.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Should I open, do I need to open it to the public?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this RDA? Second time and third time? Do I have an objection to closing the public hearing? Okay, public hearing is closed. Any further questions or comments before I ask our agent? Do you have any recommendations, Mr. Bengarazzi?
Yeah, I like the plan. I think this is a much needed rework over at that intersection. I think your filing was very complete, so it's wonderful to have. So in that event, I would recommend a -3 determination.
Barring any other questions or comments, do I have a motion for a -3 determination or something else from someone on the board?
Just the question, what's the 3 you're referring to?
Oh, the -3, yeah.
-3 refers to the work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the act. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of notice of intent, subject to the following conditions, if any.
Okay, this is in resource area though, isn't it? Aren't we in riverfront?
We would be in a.
So there's another box for that, I believe.
The work, there'll be a -2 determination. The work described in the request is within an area subject to protection under the act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent.
That one's more appropriate.
I agree.
Yeah, okay.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that we issue a -2 determination of applicability regarding the proposed roadway and drainage improvements at the intersection of Leominster Connector and Nashua Street.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Move on to our regular meeting. Certificates of compliance. First one was Tesla's down at Saks Boulevard, 199-1049.
Yeah, this is on hold until we until the flood storage compensation areas are
Vegetated, that's correct, okay. 62 Sheldon Hill Drive, file 199-1037.
This certificate of compliance is on hold until the agreement that the homeowner acknowledges the order of conditions on their property is notarized and provided to the Conservation Commission,
Okay,
as well as some wetland signage to be placed every 40 feet along the full slope
okay.
down there.
Extension permits, Lake Samoset Aquatic Vegetation Maintenance, DEP file 199-1009. And do we want to open up both at the same time? Is that okay? All right, and also extension permit for Lake Samoset DEP file 199414. Someone representing the applicant.
Ed Hanlon, I'm at 72 Lincoln Drive.
All right,
And then I should put my name in because I usually get in. Pete Lanza, 81 Lakeview Drive.
all right. What, just refresh my memory or our memory, what's the two permits for, the two DEP numbers?
One was the original lake management plan.
That was
and that was for the
414.
drawdown.
Okay,
And then, and Pete knows better the details on that. The other one was based on the SGEIR and gives us a broader toolbox for dealing with the whole range of issues that affect lake management.
okay.
Do you call the details on that?
I don't know which details you're looking for.
No, on the SGEIR, because that came later, right?
Yeah, that was the second, yes. That didn't exist, that was in process when we took out the original one. That was like over 10 years it took to write that manual. We were active with that through the Congress of Lakes and Ponds. I was president then, and our representative was Carol Hildreth. You know, everybody, engineers were there, the dam people were there, the horticultural industry was there. It's, if you've seen it, it's pretty thorough, so. I know I'd given Marco some smaller versions at one point, but kind of a citizen's guide type thing. That's really where that comes from. That's in our guidance document.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So we end up doing a lot of different things on the lake. You know, over the past 5 or 6 years, we did a weed control in 2015. We've gone to the COLAP and NOMS conferences. We've done a lot of small stormwater control projects, including the one that we had brought before the commission for Lincoln Drive. We've done a lot in terms of dam maintenance, maintaining the area around the dam and the dam itself. And we also do a lot in terms of beach maintenance. And the land all along the edge of the lake is parkland, and so we try and maintain that parkland in good shape. We stopped allowing any kind of sand to be brought in, any kind of filling to be brought in, and that was, I think, probably a decade or more ago.
Easily, yeah.
Okay.
Larry?
Just on that, there is, from my living room window, I can see a house across the way, and they still are, I know it's not Lake Samoset land, but they are spreading sand every year.
It's on the peninsula?
Yeah. Right, it's not your property, but I'm just bringing it up to the board's attention and just, it is something that happens.
Right at the end of the peninsula?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't own that property.
Right, but it's just so the board is, I mean, it's nothing to do with this and it's nothing to do
Right.
with them, but it's not, I did bring it up last year and it's
I
something that
remember that.
I'm gonna try to keep an eye out this year.
Thank you.
We did have the dam inspection issue.
Right up
We
to
had the
Right up to it.
Yeah.
preliminary report, you know, that we had to tell the engineer, Fuss and O'Neill, and when the final is in, it will be sent to, you know, your office. We'll make sure, it's only usually available now electronically,
They used to give you a print and they give you a disc, now it's just, everything's just in the cloud, so. But we haven't had the final copy from them yet. That was done in November, they inspected the dam.
But they gave the dam a good rating.
Yeah, we got as high a rating as
As we can
possibly
get.
get, because we're considered high hazard.
Right.
But,
We spent a fair amount of time and money trying to maintain that dam in
And sweat.
the best condition, and sweat.
My only concern, and I know Larry's brought it up in the 7 years I've been on this board, is on the vegetation control. And I think I mentioned it to at least one of you last time, is before there's any chemical treatment, I definitely, and I don't know if we can add conditions to a permit kind of thing, but I definitely would like to see somebody, if there is, I don't want to give you a blanket 2 or 3 year extension and just kind of say, here you go, have at it. I'd like to definitely, if you're going to plan on doing something, come in front of the board prior to doing it and saying.
yeah, we would never do it 3 years in
And
a
we do
row
plan,
anyhow.
we do
Yes.
plan on treating it, I mean,
Right.
it was 2015 when we did it last, and we hope that it doesn't grow as much, but it looks like we need to do the treatment, so
Okay.
we will come back to you.
That'd be my only, I guess, added.
Frankly, the applicator, which there's only one now in the
Right.
state, would not be doing due diligence if we asked them to come every year. They can do, by regulation, they can do spot treatment. But it's, as I told you the last time I was here, as long as I'm here, it's not my preferred,
Right,
method. We've got a uncontrollable, made, hopefully manageable situation, as a lot of lakes and ponds do in the state. So
okay.
that wouldn't be good management to be doing.
No, and I personally appreciate, the effort you guys and your organization put into
Thank you.
Lake Samoset, and you guys do go above and beyond notifying us of what you plan to do, so, that'd be, I personally don't have a problem giving an extension, but that'd be one of my only, if I possibly could add that condition of just before any chemical treatment is done for weed
Oh, yeah,
control.
we would know.
Just to come in so we can discuss the
We
type.
will,
and-
and that's fine.
And if you want, if it's done, we'll tell Sella to just send a guy in with us.
Yeah,
if
then you
you
want, and
If you
because they're the
want.
ones that do it.
Right.
They hold the license and the
Right,
responsibility, though. I mean, we would be the applicant, but,
right,
that's not a problem.
But we'll get them in here so you can ask them questions
Yeah.
specific on how they do it, so.
right.
But it's a process that begins in January for us. That's one of the reasons we wanted to get these two numbers up in December, January for renewal, because this is the time we plan about a year in advance as to things we'd like to do, because it depends on money and stuff, things like that. But it gives us, as opposed to having it in June, which doesn't give us a good planning schedule, and lets us come in just one time with both things, both numbers,
Right.
both permits.
Just one thing, and the last time the person was in, he said he creates some sort of report for you guys, that, when he's done with how much where he applied it and how much.
It would be a whole lake application.
Because he was gonna give us, or we were gonna get a copy of that, and that was always my big thing, is we seem to not, because I had asked, I guess we didn't get a copy of it last time.
Okay, well,
Just for our records, so that we
yeah,
have.
I'll get on his case if they said they're gonna do it.
Yeah, I guess he has some, he'll say, we put in X number of pounds, and these are the locations
Yeah,
we put in.
yeah. We'd be going with a systemic,
Yeah.
just, which one, probably on the advice of the applicant, but I got a feeling it'll be
Right.
the same one.
But he said he has to fill out the report anyway for like the state
Yeah,
or something,
because
so.
he has to go, I mean, besides applying, basically, we're paying him to go through the state process, which is a very complicated process, to get the license to do it. And, that's the biggest burden on him is all that. We do a lot of kind of the secretarial stuff, notifying people and That's all gonna be done, and if you use a systemic, it's especially stringent. But it's still, I think, it's the best bang for our buck in terms of its lasting, and it's also the least impact on the lake, because you're not, you know, you could use a contact and get approval probably every year, but, you know, they don't like it. So, you know, it's not the best lake management approach to use, and we always try to.
But we'll get in touch with them and find out where that report is.
Yeah, if you could just send it over
Yeah.
electronically,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fine. Had we known, we would have.
We look forward
They
to
got
that.
He actually didn't send us one, you know. I know they did a follow-up, they'll come and look at the lake, but we never, I think at the time, in fact, I know at the time, there used to be two companies way back, and now they were going through a lot of changes. Well, one absorbed the other one, and it went pretty much national. I mean, one of their offices in Arkansas, so, you know, big changes.
Any other comments or questions?
Just one thing on the management plan, I think you guys do a great job, and I think the management plan is important to let them keep maintaining. They've done work to, you know, we had issues with the roadway, you know, that came up, and you guys already had plans to fix it. I mean, you guys know, you know, so if, you know, by giving them, you know, a 3-year extension, we're allowing them to keep doing what they're doing. They do come back every year, so I am comfortable with that.
Okay. I'll put it to vote each separately.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion to issue an extension permit for DEP 1991009? And if we can add the condition that the applicator come in front of us before any chemical application is done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
And provide
And provide a
documentation afterwards.
Yeah,
Yes. I'll make that motion.
All right, do I have a second on that motion?
A second.
All in favor? Thank you. And for, like Sam has said, DEP 199414, do I have a motion to issue a 3-year extension permit on that?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue a 3-year extension for DEP file number 199-414.
Do I have a second? All right, all in favor? Thank you, gentlemen, and we appreciate your
Thank
work.
you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
And if you, I know the vernal pool issue came up
Yep.
on the center. If there's any help, anything, since I'm the guy, contact me.
He's mad.
Not that I want to be. But I told Marco I do have a slideshow that was almost all the things I found. Most of them, if the commission ever wanted to see it, I'd be, you know.
We appreciate
It's a
that.
slideshow, so that's what I am. Analog 35mm slide.
Don't date yourself.
So I'll crank up my squirrel and if you want.
20th century
If
technology.
you want, yeah. I know.
Extra bulb for that.
There you go, extra bulbs.
But that offer is there. at
We
one time.
appreciate
And
that.
One of you or all of you.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Do we have any new communications? Minutes for September 26, 2017. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
All can vote minus Paul.
Thanks, Paul, we appreciate
I didn't
it.
bother reviewing them, I wasn't able.
Everybody else review them? Any questions or concerns? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the 26th?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the minutes for September 26th, 2017.
Do I have a second?
I'll say it.
All in favor? Opposed and abstained. About the minutes for January 9th, 2018. Has anybody reviewed those?
All can vote minus Larry.
I did review them. I didn't see anything glaring. Did everyone else?
I
2, 3?
reviewed them, they looked okay to me.
Okay. Now do I have a motion to accept the January 9th minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we accept the minutes for January 9th, 2018.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor? Opposed and abstained? New business,
Not at this time.
old business, 767 Willard Street.
I have no update on this one.
Okay. Manusnock Brook, retaining wall.
I have an update that I've been informed that there was an appropriation of almost $15,000 for DPW to hire a consultant
Okay.
regarding this work.
Any timeline was given or just that the appropriation was?
That's all I've been given.
Okay. Enforcement.
I'll badger them for timeline.
Okay. Just if,
Yeah,
keep it kind of going.
I hear you.
Enforcement, 375 Harvard Street.
I pulled in a butters list for for this project, so they are anticipating a notice of intent to be submitted shortly.
Okay. 723 Willard Street.
So at the request of the commission, I updated a letter to reflect our requests regarding that, because I was not able to get confirmation from Copeland and Page saying that they sent out the notification.
Okay. I have reviewed this. Has all the other members had a chance to review this? And would you like to see any adjustments or changes to it?
I have a few edits.
Yes.
In the very first line, it says this letter is to provide you with, I think we could remove you with, just to provide notice that the city of Leominster, and should it say Conservation Commission?
It's city land,
I would say City of
No,
Leominster
city-
just because
yeah,
it's city owned.
City of Leominster.
it just falls under
Yeah.
the classification of conservation land, but it's
Mhm.
just city-owned land.
Okay.
Yeah.
In paragraph 2, where it says, third line down, even if prior permission were given by the city, which it was not, I don't know if we need to say that. I was wondering if we could strike that and just turn the word "the" into "this" and make that the sentence.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that sounds like a legal thing that somebody threw in, like, even if the city did say, like,
Right.
they could come back and say,
Yeah,
hey,
we
you know,
have permission.
so-and-so told me I could do this. Well,
Okay,
this letter, I think, just kind of eliminates that argument.
right.
But, I mean, I'm assuming it was put there for a purpose.
This letter was mainly structured off of the response that Copeland and Page had sent
Okay.
to Dan Dini.
So that's lawyery stuff.
It was lawyery
Yeah.
stuff that I was able to craft into a new
Okay.
letter.
I
I felt it was there for a purpose.
Well,
That's how
I
I read it.
think I would agree with Larry that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to make that
to
point
cover
that,
that base. Okay, I'm okay then. That's all I have.
Good points, though.
Yeah.
what you get for having a teacher, right?
You review all my stuff?
For a fee.
For a fee.
Anyone else have a comment?
I had just one area that
Sure.
I picked up on. So the last paragraph, the second line down, where it says towards the end, the city will be forced to seek an enforcement order to have the encroachments removed. I'm not sure enforcement order is the right term for it. That wasn't in there, the original letter, was
It
it?
was, that's how
Was.
they phrased it.
Um,
I had the same question.
I almost think we'd be seeking legal action.
Well, you could seek legal action. You could also say that we could look to develop and implement a plan to remove it ourselves. Just put other options in there, because technically the city owns it, controlled by the Conservation Commission. So,
Maybe it's like subject to penalty.
we don't have that ability.
We can remove it ourselves. We'd have DPW do it, if we so choose. Or we own the land.
I don't want to
So
see that
that's,
bill.
that's,
No, I'm just, I just, No, but
Warren, yeah.
No, there's-
that, I guess that was my question, you know, in the past was, what is that? And to me, I want this letter to be extremely stern, extremely, so I see what he's saying, where instead of just saying enforce, what is the next step? And I think we need to make this as harsh as possible to kind of basically say, you know, I don't know if an enforcement, but just there's some sort of enforcement, or if you don't do it, we might show up with a backhoe and stuff and decide to do it ourselves, or, you know, basically spell out, there's things we can do, because we technically own the land.
When I hear the words enforcement order, I think of a wetlands enforcement order,
Right.
but it's not that. So what is it? I mean, I don't know,
I think it would be
like a trespass order or
almost like,
something?
yeah,
You'd word that part simply legal recourse, but like I was suggesting, maybe there's other options you want to throw in that paragraph too.
Right.
Rather than just leave it at legal recourse, and that's pretty much an option with everything in life.
Right.
Get specific on here's what we could do, A, B, C, D.
Right.
and-
I guess I would agree with get rid of the enforcement order.
Yep.
And just change that to legal recourse,
Including but not limited
including,
to
but not limited to, and then
physical removal of the structure.
by city, you know, something like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, the city might have something in place where they can put a lien on the property for the value, the cost of the work.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know if they can do that, I don't know. And we can't use wetland funds to do it, so, I mean, I don't know how we pay for it. We'd have to go through the city council to get approval.
But yeah, I would say get rid of an enforcement order and put in, what do we say, legal
recourse.
recourse.
Or the commission will be
Yeah.
forced to seek legal recourse to ensure its removal. Or
You might even find someone that would be willing to do it from, you know, if they don't wanna take it down, maybe there's a company out there that will do it.
you can keep the
Keep the
materials.
materials.
if they did that.
Right.
Can you do that, or do
I have
the
no idea.
materials have to be returned to the owner?
I-
I don't know.
Yeah,
What's
'cause
the
you
law?
can't really, that's a good question.
I don't know.
What about the electrical infrastructure that leads off of the city property onto the owner's property? What do you do about that?
That would be the building inspector, cause it's not, if
Yeah.
it wasn't done legally, I mean, they would have to, I'm sure they have some mechanism in place.
And it specifically states in here,
I saw that. about
you know, the
permits.
entirety of recreation, including but not limited to basketball, tennis, shuffleball court, shed, fire pits, lighting and utilities, and all associated landscaping and masonry, so
Yeah, I don't really,
basically he'd have to stop at his property line.
yeah.
And everything would have to come out, so, you know.
So what about saying when subject to legal recourse and, possibility of penalties?
Well, that would be part of the legal recourse.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have the ability to issue a penalty other than that,
No, right,
Yeah.
no,
so.
Hmm.
I don't know, I want to get it out, so maybe we leave it at legal recourse.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't want this
I
to
don't
go,
wanna-
to
I don't
go
wanna keep
over and
going
over and
another
over and
meeting,
over. I'm
yeah.
just trying to, I just want to make it very stringent.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
only concern. And that if we can leave it at that to get it out.
Recourse or physical removal, or? I don't know.
and or physical removal? Legal recourse and or.
I mean, it gives us the opportunity, if we had an avenue to have it removed after a certain date, you know, they've been notified that's because that's not really legal recourse, that's just
Right.
another,
And or physical removal by the city.
Yeah.
And what that city consists of is whether it's a subcontractor, DPW, or Larry Giannakis and his wheelbarrow. It's the city recourse at that point. But I like the idea of putting that, though, how we want to word it. I'm not an English major, trust me, so.
I think legal recourse and or physical removal.
What if you just took the word enforcement out, seek an order to have the encroachments removed? and the order would be specific would I have to get.
My only concern with that is that nothing seems to motivate the property owner, I guess, at this point.
Right.
Right.
If this has been going on for years, and that's kind of the same exact thing we've said all along.
Right.
So, you know, again, we have the ability to go in and remove it. Not like you and I personally, but the city has the ability to do that, they own the property. So if that's an option and that might get their attention to come to the table at least, then,
Well, I think putting the date down there, May 15th, should catch the owner's attention and bring the owner back to the table with some kind of a plan by that date to have it out, because if they don't, we will.
I would say to seek legal recourse and or physical removal by the city of Leominster.
Yeah, I mean,
Because they're the property owner, so they can choose who actually does it.
Ultimately, they own it, yeah.
because the other issue is it has to be restored as well, so, and I don't think the city wants to pay to have their own land restored.
well, that's, well, we don't know, first of all.
Yeah, we don't.
And then,
But,
so maybe we add in their language that the city may develop and implement a plan to remove the encroachments themselves, or something like that. It's hard writing a letter sitting at a table.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the last sentence says it all, though. Once, when you talk about, once removed, the entire disturbed nation shall be restored back. That should not be on the city, that should be on the.
Yeah,
You could just add in, you know,
at the expense,
at the expense of
the property owner,
well,
encroaching
no,
party.
at the
Encroaching
encroaching party.
the encroaching party.
right? That's the whole.
And there is some incentive on the city level too, because if you're gonna be applying for future grants and you want open space with grant money, things of that nature, you have to enforce the property that you own, you're not eligible for those. Is what it boils down to in a lot of cases. So if you've got an issue with encroachment and you're ignoring that, if EOEA is giving out a grant for something, that, you know, they may take you off the list of, so it's everybody's interest to kind of get this resolved.
Right. I agree.
So I guess the last sentence, or the second to last sentence, should say the city will be forced to seek legal, what was it?
Legal recourse
Legal recourse,
and or physical removal by the city of Leominster.
and then I would add, once removed, at,
Well, I was gonna say, the city may develop and implement a plan to remove the requested encroachment at the expense of the encroaching party.
that's perfect. Yeah.
You wanna run with that?
Do you want to take out the two words in the first paragraph for you?
I think they're redundant, yeah.
I could do that as well.
Yeah, once you give them the letter, that's what we're doing.
I mean, I don't know how else we can enforce it, but that's pretty stern.
Let me ask a question. Because we're speaking for quote-unquote the city, and I know this is one of several agencies of the city, do we just send this, or do we need permission from some other department to do that?
My opinion is you don't need permission. I mean, it's Article 97 property, so it's city-owned, controlled by the Conservation Commission.
We're in control of
Yeah.
it, so.
So it's the same, you know, whether our other duties with respect to enforcement orders under the wetlands
Mhm,
regs or things of that nature.
Yeah.
Kind of like we own where the Lassie League field is, so we
Right.
can do what, the only thing we actually had to ask permission there was to put up some no parking signs at one point for a safety thing.
Right.
The only one that can do that is the city council, so, you know, but normally when it's controlled by the commission, we kind of have say in what
Yeah.
it does, so.
Yeah.
I would say no, we don't have to. But, do you have it all? Okay. And I'm assuming you're gonna send it certified, registered.
Certified registered mail.
Can we get a droplet of blood
Tomorrow.
with DNA? Like,
Yeah,
you know?
put a
Get a
drop of blood on it.
There's gotta be some police or firemen or constables.
I just wanna make sure it goes to the property owner in question and not have a postman
Right.
sign it to say I delivered it and some guy say it's not my
This is
signature.
a Lunenburg.
But I mean, you could send one standard,
Oh,
one
that's right, the guy.
certified. Yes.
700 pieces
Yeah.
of mail.
They can do that, I guess. you know.
I'll bring it to the post office. Usually what I do for these, I bring it to the post office, have them stamp it that day that I brought it there, and, you know,
Okay,
um,
that's fine, I just,
that's all I can do, really, and,
no, I know.
I mean,
I know one time it was,
oh,
it
yeah.
was on a butters list and we had an argument of whose signature it
Oh,
was.
you're absolutely right.
That was minimal compared to what we're trying to do here, so,
Right.
okay. Is everybody good with that? Do I have a motion for a vote to issue the letter to Mr. Dandini at 723 Willard Street with the edits that we have told Marco?
Can I make one
Sure.
recommendation? What if we were to make the motion, but we had like one person be, like, maybe Mr. Stone could be the final person to review it before it goes out to make sure? Because we used to do that before, like we'd hold a signature for something.
Yeah, we can
So-
do that.
That way, at least,
I should not be the person because my grammar isn't the best. So, when it comes to legal letters, I'll volunteer, but I would recommend someone else.
and then rather than rehashing it, trying to,
Right.
like, here we're trying to throw words around, but
Sounds like an administrative duty for one of our higher-ups.
How about I send it to everyone? And,
Actually, that might not be a bad idea.
and if you have concerns, you can either email me or call me
yeah,
But
just
yeah,
individually, that's all.
Yeah.
individually.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we send the draft of the letter that will be edited for the corrections we suggested here tonight to Mr. Dandini of 723 Willard Street.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank you, Mr. Pringrazzi. 145 Central Street, any update on that?
I've been in contact with Hannigan Engineering regarding this, and our requested notice of intent. I guess their biggest hangup right now is the existing conditions for the site. I guess there's a plan floating around that represents the existing conditions of that site prior to the lot paving. So it's my understanding that's where they're at the moment in order to file this notice of intent. They're questioning whether or not they can present this with a vague understanding of what was there before. I mean, that's why they want that existing conditions plan.
Okay.
I think it's kind of necessary in a way to have that, but
There's plenty of aerials online too.
true. They can kind of just,
There's a lot of existing condition info out there that, prior to a few months ago when this happened.
sure.
Even if it's simple Google Earth with
So it would
street
have to be an
maps.
engineered plan at
Right.
the point.
Okay, well, I could relay that to them and say, we don't need an exact representation of what it was before, but we want some sort of broad understanding of how it was originally. Either through aerial or GIS, topography, stuff like that.
Which is one thing on that whole area, I know that our big concern was, snow getting into, the brook. But if you go to like adjoining properties, they're all just plowing their snow as far back as they can. And I don't
Car
know.
wash there?
And there's a big white barn in between the two as well.
Oh, the hot dog stand?
No.
No, there's
maybe-
like a house in there.
Yeah, it's like a It's an old like white kind of.
Are you saying on the other side of the?
In between, in
On the
between
south side of the.
Yeah, I guess it was probably where the hot dog thing
Yeah,
is.
I'm thinking the hot dogs.
But they all just push the snow as far back as they
Alright.
can to maximize, so I think maybe,
I'll take a peek and see if it's getting in the brook. I mean,
but I mean, it
We'll see
shouldn't,
where
it
else they
seems
can
like it's
put it.
going to, even if it's not getting to the brook, it's probably, if it's going off the edge of pavement, that's.
What they're plowing itself isn't going right into the brook, then that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Is anything, all of those pollutants that get stuck in those snow piles, that if you look, early spring when everything's finally starting to melt at all the commercial properties, and you see the layer of dark
2
stuff
inches
get
of-
thicker, and yeah. I mean, that gets pushed in with the initial plowing. If it's close to it but not in the resource area and it melts, then, mostly you're getting water and,
Yeah, I just don't know how close it actually is,
yeah.
especially where that white barn is.
sure.
The car wash is probably far enough back.
Let me take a look at it.
And every time the plows go down the roads here during a storm, they've pushed all that snow on the road right
Right
into the
into-
rivers and
yeah,
streams.
Right. It's a lose-lose for New England, at least. But yeah.
But it just seems kind of hypocritical to tell this guy, and then the guy directly next door is kind of doing what we don't want them to do.
Well, it's the riverfront alteration is, I mean,
Yeah.
that was one of the things that we had concerns about, but ultimately it's the riverfront
Yeah,
alteration.
right.
Yeah. And without altering it, you wouldn't have the opportunity to push it there to begin with,
Yeah.
so.
He didn't even plow last snowstorm. That was kind of nice to see. I kind of expected him to go. Like Larry's thinking, but he didn't really.
He's got a berm there with some hay bales up,
Yeah, he
so
does.
it's gonna be pretty hard to plow into a brook.
I agree.
Especially if the hay
Well,
bales are
you could
frozen.
probably do it if you tried.
If you try, I mean, you gotta work out a little bit, but yeah.
You'd be surprised at people.
Maybe you could use a small bobcat. just-
A bobcat can pick it up and dump it right into the
Where they
brook.
do that, tight areas.
All right, now you're getting too technical. To go about. 35 Berkshire Drive.
Yeah, this is still waiting on final vegetation that will occur in the spring. And a status report from Mr. Karen, the wetland scientist
Okay.
in charge of it.
Emergency certs.
Not at this time.
Any project updates? How's the city look, Marco?
It's good.
Have any projects going on? I know Slackbrook's one of the big ones, but other than that,
No, I mean, city's doing well.
nothing major.
Nothing major coming towards us right now, I don't believe. I mean, let's see, other than the notice of intents that I mentioned regarding 375 Harvard Street
Yeah.
and, eventually the Central Street. But
Right. Okay.
One request on
Yeah.
update. I can't remember the name of the street, but it was those houses behind where the solar farm was.
how's it behind the solar farm?
Over by Liberty Place?
Oh,
Yeah.
Atlantic Avenue.
Yes.
Atlantic Ave.
Yeah. No word on when that's gonna start.
They've got a lot of equipment out there.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I just wanted to make sure that somebody's witnessing that sewer line construction. That was my big concern out there,
Okay.
making sure that got done properly.
I
and
was
then-
not notified of that.
Okay, they may have just mobilized and haven't started the work, I don't know, I mean, I could just see it looking past the solar field and you could see all the equipment back there.
Let me take a look at that and I'll follow up with a email
Okay.
to you.
Because I'm assuming part of the condition must
It
have
was to notify
been
me,
notify you.
but that rarely ever happens.
as well.
And
Okay.
yeah, so I'll take a peek, Brad. I haven't been down there.
Check that they've recorded the order and all that's in place too.
I know that they record the order. They're
Okay.
usually pretty good about that. As far as notifying me, not so much. But thank you.
Thanks.
Any other update requests? Budget?
Budget, this fiscal year, I misspoke last meeting. This fiscal year, we've deposited $5,020 even into the wetland budget
Okay.
for a total of $74,055.52.
52 cents?
Yep.
It's a nice cookout ball.
Oh, well, you giving me a hard time about that. That's what the budget is.
Is this an interest-bearing account?
Yeah.
How to get 2 cents?
I don't know. I'm sure I could find it. It's probably from an appropriation.
Is that what a stamp costs now, 52 or 50?
Didn't it go down?
I haven't
I think it's
It went
48
up.
cents.
stamped in like,
I think it went up, didn't it? Just the
No,
other
I
day.
did it, but it had gone down at one point. But
oh,
it, was it a couple years ago? It went down like a penny or two? Yeah, it might, yeah.
good.
Because I was surprised to hear stamps actually went down.
Gotta compete with email.
You had a question?
Yeah, I had a question on the budget. Do we have a line item in there for conferences or
Yeah.
anything like that?
Trainings, conferences.
Do we know what we have in there for a line?
I could pull that.
The only reason I ask is if anybody's interested in going to the MACC annual conference in March, that's all.
I actually just got an email today. They have some scholarship programs for any new members or interested parties for all the courses apparently. So through the MACC, or no, through DEP, excuse me.
Is there a date?
That's through DEP?
Yeah, I got the email today.
I saw something about that somewhere. I thought it was in ACC.
It could, I don't know, but yes, we
Double
do
check
have,
it, but there's that option, but then
we do
there's
have
also,
a line item for trainings.
and I think
Larry's
it's,
benefited from that
Yeah.
last
I did it last year.
year.
yeah.
So yeah, I
taking the
do.
classes. I hadn't actually never taken them, so.
Oh, those, yeah.
Yeah.
But they have separate things there this year too, yeah.
It's I think we have like, I don't know. I'll pull the budget figures
Okay.
for that.
Have they announced the date for the conference?
I think is it March, is it the 3rd or?
Yeah, I think it's always the first weekend, first Saturday in March, I think.
Early. Early March.
Yeah.
Oh, Paul, I still have to give you your MACC card.
I was wondering.
Oh yeah.
I have extras.
You get discounts with that, right?
Yeah.
oh yeah, it
It's
sounds.
like a AAA card, but worse.
Third, it's a Saturday.
Yeah, usually it's Saturday, yeah. Any other budget questions?
No?
Okay. Agents report.
Well, as of the 29th, which is Monday, I'll be the new food inspector for the city of Leominster. So give you my resignation notice. It's the conservation agent for the city of Leominster.
6 days? What happened in 2 weeks?
Yeah. How are we supposed to deal with 6-day notice?
It kind of happened abruptly. So this is what I'm thinking. I'll come up after my scheduled hours as a food inspector and intake any permit applications, write legal ads, post agendas, and forward any information to the Conservation Commission as needed until they have a actual agent.
Did they advertise the job?
They advertised it yesterday, citywide,
Yeah.
and then they'll go to the public if they don't have any suitable applicants.
Did I hear you applied and said you're gonna do it for
No.
free?
You did not hear that. Wrong on both accounts.
So how long is that first step before it would get advertised elsewhere?
So by the 31st is the end date for within the city. So after,
February
Yeah.
1st,
I believe February 1st.
posted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Posted.
And if it does get posted, can we make sure it gets to both MACC and MMA? Just so we have a broader audience.
That's, yep, I'll follow up on that and make sure that's accomplished.
We can't give you like a big raise to make you stay.
No, I don't think Dean would approve of that.
Well, I got $74,000.
Ooh, yes. You're the guy that didn't fill the candy dish, you gotta get a food inspector.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But that's why. He
Right,
grew up
that's
as a
why.
sanitary.
There you go.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let us know where you're eating lunches.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'll let you know.
That would be helpful.
Probably won't want to eat. But I'll be bringing my own lunch.
Wow.
So you're gonna be working for the Board of Health?
I'll be
or
working
is-
under Chris Knuth,
Okay.
the director down there. So I'll be kind of wearing multiple hats down there. Wow. I think it was a good opportunity. I really appreciate everyone on the commission. It's been a wonderful opportunity working with you all and learning with you all, so
Likewise.
thank you. So I hope, keep you in the loop until you get a new agent and continue doing what you're doing.
Very good, sir.
That's all I have to report.
Chairman's report, I have nothing. Our next meeting is February 13th, 2018. Filing deadline is January 31st, 2018. Is there anything else anybody would like to discuss? I declare this meeting adjourned.